The $5 meal deal at McDonald's means you get to pick between a McDouble or a McChicken. Then get a small fry, a small drink, and a 4-piece McNuggets. That's a lot of McDonald's for not a lot of money. Get the $5 meal deal today.
Prices and participation may vary for a limited time only.
You're listening to the Sisters in Loss podcast, a faith-based grief and loss podcast for Black women, where you will hear stories of miscarriage, infant loss, stillbirth, and infertility to learn there is a testimony in tragedy. You will learn how to heal, gain clarity, find hope and peace, and turn your pain into your purpose after loss. I'm your host, Erica M. McAfee. Welcome to episode 122 of the Sisters in Loss podcast. Can you imagine getting pregnant while on birth control? Today's guests were surprised when she found out she was expecting after having an IUD. Yes, she beat the odds and conceived while on birth control. Jordan Johnson is a United States Naval Officer and moved from D.C. to California while pregnant. 2 weeks after celebrating her baby shower, she ended up in the hospital and the baby did not have a heartbeat. At 29 weeks, she was told she would have to deliver her son naturally because he was so big. He came out breech and she experienced PTSD in the delivery room. Jordan shares in this episode how her IUD caused an infection, thus causing hemorrhaging around her umbilical cord. In her pregnancy after loss with her daughter, she shares the steps the doctors took to ensure her and her baby were safe and healthy. This episode is for you to listen to if you've been on birth control and are currently on birth control, and how her IUD caused infection in her womb. Here is Jordan Johnson. Thank you so much, Jordan, for being on the podcast.
I am so happy to be on this podcast. Super excited.
Oh, I'm so happy that you are here. So for our listeners, would you please share a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, so I am located in Monterey, California, and I'm a naval officer, active duty, and I'm currently in grad school studying space systems operations. And we moved back to the DMV area in December, so I'm super excited about that. I'm a Christian. I am a wife, and I am now a mother. So all of those things.
Thank you so much for your service to the country. This is probably the first time we've actually had a naval officer. So take us back on your journey to motherhood and just share with us your loss story.
Yeah, so in May of 2017, we were actually stationed in D.C. before here. Randomly found out that I was pregnant. It's interesting because I actually had an IUD in, and so I just randomly, one day felt kind of weird, and I was like, I wonder if I'm pregnant. And so I found out that I was pregnant, and I found out our due date was January 4th, and me and my husband were super, super excited about this pregnancy, because I was like, wow, I'm like 0.2%, of people that get pregnant. Like, this is a blessing God is working in this pregnancy, so I was just super excited about it. And so we moved out here, we moved to Monterey, and, with my, little Deucey, we had already named him. We found out that we were having a little boy. So we moved out here, and we were just super excited. And I remember just the emotions surrounding the pregnancy. I was in shock because I was like, we weren't planning this. And then, I was super excited about it. So actually in September, we flew back to Atlanta to have our baby shower. Because we're so far away, our family wanted to give us a baby shower. So we received all this love and, attention. I was like, wow, this is getting real, So I came back, and then I remember taking a physics test, and I was taking that physics test, and I was like, something just doesn't feel right. And so I called my husband, and we went to the hospital, and that was on October 13th of 2017. And I remember it's crazy because I still get like super emotional, but I was 29 weeks pregnant, about to be 30 weeks pregnant. And I remember us going into the doctor, and they were trying to find the heartbeat with like the heartbeat monitor, and they couldn't find the heartbeat. But the nurse was like, "Oh, this happens, all the time, so don't worry about it." And so we actually went to get an ultrasound. And so I remember the ultrasound tech, I was saying, like, are you going to tell us the results here? Are you going to, what's going on? And she was like, "Oh, the doctor has to tell you the results." And so I remember looking at the screen and seeing fetal demise. And I was like, demise? Like, whoa, that's not good. Like, there's, and I remember seeing like my baby on the screen, just limp, like I couldn't, like, he wasn't moving around like usually. And it was just like my whole heart just sunk because I knew before the doctor could even tell us that, that he was gone. And so that was just like a really, really harsh reality, because I think like before this pregnancy, I was just like, oh, women get pregnant and they have kids. And especially like because especially because I got pregnant with the IUD, like I just wasn't expecting to lose the baby. And so it was just kind of like my ignorance about pregnancy had just become, it had just turned to full light essentially. And so the doctor explained to us like the different ways and just like the process moving forward. She was super, that's just like the thing about the pregnancy. It was just like, even though it was like the most hurtful experience, like I look back and I see God everywhere, because so our church members at the time, the OB that actually delivered me, she was a Christian. She prayed in my ear. She was, just really, really supportive. The nurses, just everybody. And so we talked about the different options. And she said she was trying to see if I could do a DNC or if I had to deliver vaginally. And it turned out that the DNC wasn't an option for me because the baby was too big. And so I had to get induced. And I remember I got induced at around midnight on October 14th. And at around maybe like 4 a.m., I remember his legs like coming out because he was turned around. And so I remember his legs coming out and they were trying to get him out, but I hadn't dilated enough for his entire body to get out. And so I remember the doctor being like, I hate that I have to do this, but like basically just try to go to sleep. When you feel pressure, call us in. And it was like the most excruciating thing because like I was trying to relax, but I was so tense because I felt his legs in between my legs, and it was just like the worst feeling ever. And it's crazy because me being active duty military, I'm like, I never thought that I would get PTSD from the hospital delivery room. So that was just really, really traumatic for me. And so he finally came out in the morning time. He was born at 6:20 a.m. on October 14th. And I'll forever remember that day. It was very, it was just nothing like a birth experience that I would ever, imagine. And it was just so, I guess it was, it was kind of like I couldn't hear anything. Like I just couldn't focus on anything. Like I remember my husband holding him, and he was just so beautiful. Like I remember looking at him, and I actually couldn't hold him, and so I was just too out of it to hold him. And so and we spent one day in the hospital, and we everybody was coming in and, supporting us and, trying to, tell us funny stories or whatever the case. But I think like I was just numb. We decided that, I get like pretty emotional. But so we decided initially to go to counseling because it was just too much for us. And so we went to counseling, and we had a Christian counselor, and we learned, the process of grieving. And we realized that, we both grieve differently. Like Christian would grieve by like watching Bill Cosby, and Bill Cosby was like, you watch the Bill Cosby show, he's like an OBGYN, so babies are coming out everywhere, and for me, I grieved, I cried, and so it was just like a different process of grieving. And in that counseling, we found out that like I wanted to try again to have a baby, and then we found out that Christian, my husband, like really didn't want to have kids, ever. And so we kind of came to a common ground that like we would wait to have kids. And so we were using contraceptives again, and we actually found out on his due date that I was pregnant again. And so that was like for me filled with a lot of like emotions. Like I was happy, but at the same time I was like, I'm not gonna have the baby because for me it was always like my thought was always like, I can get pregnant. Like it's very easy for me to get pregnant. And so I recognized like, for some people it's not, but for me it was like very easy to get pregnant. But for me, I was like, I can't deliver a baby into this world. So I was like, oh, I'm pregnant, but I'm not having the baby. So it was like I was nervous, but at the same time I was like, it's gonna end in a miscarriage or stillbirth like the last time. So I actually like didn't want to tell the military or anything. And so I went to like kind of like a clinic, low income mothers or something. I don't know. It was like a clinic here in Monterey, and I like found out that I was pregnant, and I was crying, and the lady was like, oh, you want to keep the baby, right? Like, are you thinking about abortion? And I was like, oh, no, I'm not thinking about abortion. I shared with her my story, and she, spoke to me, and it came out to be that like 20 years ago, her stillbirth was named Jordan, my name, and then her rainbow baby was born on Harper, my current daughter, her due date, which was September 11th. And so that gave me so much hope. I was like, wow, God, you're, is this a sign? Like, you're coming through, wow. So, I kind of mustered enough courage to tell my husband. And, I told him on the same beach that we had our memorial service for my son. And so, he was crying out, we were excited, but we knew like it was a long road ahead. So we actually found out from an autopsy that we did with my son that I am at high risk of clotting. So every woman is at a high risk clotting, but I'm at like a super, super high risk. So my plan moving forward, the autopsy showed that he had hemorrhaging around the umbilical cord. And then I had also developed an infection from the IUD. And so my plan moving forward was that I would have to do Lovenox, which is a blood thinning medicine once a day. So it comes in shot form. So every day my husband would give me the Lovenox, and started my non-stress test at about 20 weeks of pregnancy versus most women start them at like around 36-ish. But like the whole pregnancy, I just remember being super nervous, and I was at the hospital, I feel like every day, like all of the nurses knew my name because I was just, even though I was, quoting scripture, Lord, your perfect love cast out fear. And I had scripture all around, and I was quoting it, and at the end of the day, I was human, and I was so scared that the same thing would happen to Harper. But, God is sovereign, and He is faithful. And so, on August 30th, we welcomed our daughter into the world, and it was just so emotional, to say the least. And so, that's basically in a nutshell our story. And just how God showed Himself strong. I still every day, think about my son. He will forever be a part of my family. Like, I sign cards with him. So that's our story. I hope you can hear me. Yes, I can hear you. It's a little bit background noise, I guess because of the wind there, but that is fine. I still think people will be blessed.
Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp.com. That is better, HELP.com. Is there something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your personal goals? BetterHelp will assist your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in under 24 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It is professional counseling done securely online. There's a broad range of expertise in BetterHelp's counselor network, which may not be locally available in many areas. This service is available for clients worldwide. You can log into your account anytime and send a message directly to your counselor. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses, plus you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room as with traditional therapy. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit their website at betterhelp.com/sisters. That's better, HELP, and join the over 500,000 people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. There's a special offer for our listeners. For Sisters in Loss listeners, get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/sisters. I'm so excited for you all to tune into BetterHelp, as I've been using it for the last 4 weeks, and I absolutely love the counselor that I was matched with. You can also choose a counselor that specifically works with African American patients or is African American themselves, especially if you're looking for someone who can relate to your cultural experiences as you're going through grief, loss, and healing. Once again, the website to get 10% off is betterhelp.com/sisters, better, HELP.com/SISTERS.
So really, I love that you took us through your pregnancy. So really, tell us what has helped you heal on this journey. Now that you are a mom and you have your rainbow baby, how have you grieved, and then how have you healed? Yeah, so I would say that I'm still grieving, to be honest, but this journal, and it was ironic because my friend, who isn't even a Christian, bought me this journal. But this journal is called Grieving the Child I Never Knew, and it's a devotional for comfort in the loss of your unborn or newly born child. That really helped me. It made me realize that this child, even though she didn't come home with me, this child was and is real. And we had we actually got him cremated, and he's in our house, and just it just helped me to kind of come to those terms, because I feel like with infant loss, even infertility, I feel like people downplay, oh well, yeah, you lost, you had a miscarriage, you had a stillbirth, the child is gone, get over, you never knew him. But for me, that devotional really helped me to, put into perspective, this was my child, and he was real, and it helped me to kind of be able to talk about it more. Also, in my grieving process, I kind of had to recognize I had to give people a lot of grace, because people would say things like, oh, well, you can just have another one, or you can just find you got no reason to hell him. But, just really, really hurtful things that they weren't necessarily trying to be hurtful, but they were hurtful. So it's so important to talk about it. Thank you for sharing that. So what other tools or resources that you use to help you go through your grieving process? So along with the book and seeing a counselor, I would say that so I did join a Facebook group, and it was mothers who lose after the third trimester, something like that. And initially it was helping me, but then I realized that it was it kind of got depressing, especially when I got pregnant. So I kind of stopped that. And then also just so what encouraging words can you leave the listeners that are out there who may be struggling with that thought of trying again and what a pregnancy after a miscarriage. Yeah, so I would just say that I think even though like it sounds very cliche, right? I honestly would just tell the listeners that God is sovereign, right? And so there was also this song by Terren Wells. It's called Hills and Valleys, and it says that in the mountains, which is like the good times in life, like I'll look to you basically, and then the valleys, like in the bad times, when I'm like, dang God, where are you? Like I'll still look to you, like intentionally, right? So I think that like really, 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 really intentionally seeking God during those times, and just realizing that like so feelings, right? Feelings are temporal. Feelings of like, oh, I'm sad, or like I'm happy. I'm whatever the feeling may be at the time. Like that's a temporal feeling. Like you're not always going to be sad. You're not always going to be happy. You're not always going to be, but your ultimate source of joy is from the Lord, and that's constant. And so I would tell viewers that, and I would also tell them that there will be sunshine after the storm. I think the sun will look different, but I will say that there is sunshine. And I also think that like just like being just like recognizing for me, like being full circle, that if Ducey had been born, then I probably would have never met my daughter. So I just think that just trusting God and just trusting His process and trusting His plan, that He does have a plan, right? So like in the midst of sorrow, sadness, just realizing that, hey, God does have a plan, and He's not a man that He should lie. And so whatever He's spoken to you, if He's spoken to you that you're going to be a mother, if He's spoken to you, whatever the case may be, He's not a man that He should lie. And so that, whether that motherhood comes from, adoption, whether it comes from, other people's children over and you being a mother figure, whether it comes from birthing your own child, like He's not a man that He should lie. And so that will come into fruition. And so just remembering that, kind of helped me. At the same time, though, during my pregnancy, I was scared. And I think that that's another thing, like God allows fear. And so I think that's why we serve such an awesome God. He allows us to fear. He allows us to be scared. And so I think that that's what kind of helped me move forward. So I love that He allows us to fear. So where can the listeners connect with you? So I'm on Instagram. It's Morena, MORENA _elite ELITE. And I would love to connect with them. And then I'm also now about to be a part of your Facebook community. So I would love to connect with anybody who would love to talk. I love speaking about this stuff. So much, Jordan, for sharing your story, sharing your light, and just being transparent with us about your journey. I truly appreciate it, and I know that the listeners will be blessed. Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. For show notes and more information on today's guest, go to sistersinlost.com. If you have not joined our online community, go to sistersinlost.com, as well as sign up for our newsletter. We want you to be a part of the community so you can know all of the events that we have planned on as Sisters in Lost. Go to sistersinlost.com, sign up for our newsletter, join our online community, and stay connected with us. Talk to you soon.